Welcome back to 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. Last we left off, Snake was missing. Who cares, he's probably in a box somewhere hiding. That's the reason why we're going back to the large hospital room on C-Deck, because I don't care about Snake. We probably actually just missed him or something. We don't know. So, let's go back to the large hospital room. Huh? Why would we go back? Well, I mean, we might have just missed him, you know? Maybe he really was just late. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Okay, let's go. Not even a fuss. They turned and ran down the hallway to their right. On their way to the large hospital room, Junpei and June noticed Santa standing next to the number 3 door. Junpei paused. What should Junpei do? I don't care about Santa either. Just walk away. He's probably doing something on his own anyway. Junpei turned around and walked away from Santa. There was nothing he'd learned from talking to him anyway. Junpei took June and left the large hospital room. Where would they go next? Let's just finish searching. They looked everywhere they could think of, but Snake was nowhere to be found. Lotus looked around at 6 frustrated faces and spoke. We can't keep looking for Snake. Wherever he is, it's not here. We need to get moving. Junpei couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Snake seemed to have completely disappeared. There was no point in wasting any more time. The others seemed to be having similar thoughts, but they stayed silent. Finally, 7 spoke. We don't got a choice. Lotus is right. We're not going to find Snake. There's a problem, though. We've got to figure out who's going to go through which door. Yes. I have a proposal. She walked back and forth across the floor, her heels clicking against the wood. Finally, she stopped. Why don't we decide on one person to sacrifice? Sacrifice? Well, perhaps that's a bit of a harsh word, but yes. You've all figured it out by now, haven't you? We can't all make it through those doors. If we split into 2 teams of 4 and 3 people respectively, then 3 people will be left behind. If we split into 2 teams of 5 and 2 respectively, then 2 people will be left behind. But if we split into 2 groups of 3 and leave 1 person out, then only 1 person will be left behind. Leaving behind 3 people with 2 teams of 4 and 3. I can't argue with that logic, Lotus. It wasn't pleasant. She was right. There wasn't any way that the numbers worked out. If one group was 4, the other group would always have a digital route that didn't match a door. When 7 spoke, his voice was strained. Then, you're saying we gotta decide who's gonna stay behind? Yes, we do. In our circumstances, it's logically and morally the best solution. The other 6 were to survive, and 1 person has to sacrifice themselves. No, that's too cruel. What's so cruel about it? To just sacrifice someone like that. And what's your plan? Maybe we should sacrifice 2 people instead of just 1. It's not what I meant. We shouldn't sacrifice anyone. I told you, it's not possible. Wake up. Whoa, calm down, you 2. Santa stepped between Lotus and June. Look, what Lotus is trying to say is that you should aim to bring the greatest amount of happiness to the greatest amount of people, right? Exactly. That's how democracy works. And for that reason, I think the only fair way to decide who will be sacrificed is through a vote. What do you think? No, that's terrible. I'm not asking you. Shut up. I'm starting to regret my choices. What about you, Santa? Me? Well, I agree, I guess. Alright, that's 1 vote for. Counting mine, that's 2. 7. Can't say I agree with you, but we don't exactly have a choice. If we don't do something, we're all gonna die. Glad to see you get it. If I can get 1 more vote, then it's decided. What about you, Clover? Clover had moved away from the group and was sitting on one of the beds. Her whole body dropped. Junpei didn't know if she'd even heard Lotus's proposal. Lotus walked over to Clover and gently laid a hand on her shoulder. Your brother has to be behind one of the numbered doors. We searched everywhere, but we didn't find him. Doesn't that mean he has to have gone through one of them somehow? Clover slowly lifted her face. Let's go look for him together, okay? If we sacrifice one person, then we can go look for him. You agree with me, right? Clover nodded once. The motion carries. Lotus spun around and walked toward Junpei. Now, let's start a vote too. That won't be necessary. Ace had barely spoken for Lotus's entire speech, and everyone jumped a little. 6 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. He didn't seem to notice or even care. I will stay. That should solve our problem, yes? Ace, what are you saying? No, you can't do that. That won't solve anything. June's voice shook, and she looked around desperately for someone to agree with her. Ace simply looked at her. June, I'm afraid you may have misunderstood me. I said I would stay, but I never said I would sacrifice myself. Huh? I trust you, each and every one of you. I believe you'll come back for me. Whoa. There's an optimistic, and then there's just nuts. Those doors only go one way. You go in, you don't come out. If we go through them, you won't be able to return, correct? Yeah. True, but that will not be the case once you've escaped from the ship. What? Please, I beg you. Once you've escaped, come back and rescue me. Ideally within the time limit Zero has given us. No, that's ridiculous. There's no way we can get back in time. Finally, Junpei could hold his tongue no longer. We've only got 5 hours left. We don't even know where the hell we are. How on earth are we going to find someone to come and rescue you? Perhaps you would prefer to stay instead of me? Or perhaps you would be willing to leave June behind? Ace's voice was dignified, and without a hint of cruelty or malice. Junpei had no rebuttal. His argument was too good. You see, there's no other choice. And I see we've come to our conclusion. Go on. Don't worry yourselves about me. Go. Quickly. Junpei stood frozen by indecision, unable to move. Junpei bit her lip so hard that Junpei feared she would break the skin. Santa stood against the wall, calm and aloof. Seven tore his beanie from his head and turned it over anxiously in his hands. Only Clover stared at Ace with an expression Junpei was unable to decipher. Lotus's attitude, however, was different from the others. Good. Let's accept this kind of offer, then. She smiled, her eyes bright. Ace answered with a smile of his own. Good. I think this is the best for me. Perhaps I'll be able to take a nap. Perhaps it's my age, but I get tired so easily these days. As he spoke, Ace lowered himself down to the floor next to one of the beds. From somewhere deep in the ship, Junpei suddenly heard the screeching of metal on metal. It was almost as if the ship were screaming. Would it really hold their time limit? Hold until their time limit was up? Already D-Deck was flooded. In the sudden silence, the only sound was the sad metal wail of the ship. Unsurprisingly, it was Lotus who spoke first. Well, what are you waiting for? We're wasting time. Why don't we hurry it up? As if a spell had been broken, the others all began to talk at once. You're right. We should get going. That's all we can do right now. 7. Seriously. Honestly, I was getting kinda sick of listening to you guys talk. You too, Santa? I have to find my brother. Wait, all of you. Let's just calm down and think about this. There has to be a way to get everyone out. There has to be. Right, Junpei? Say something. Yeah, let's think. There's gotta be another way. His words sounded hollow and fake. Fine. Forget about it. I'll figure it out on my own. She spun around and ran toward Ace. He had slumped down next to the bed when June grabbed his arm and pulled. Come on, Ace. Please stand up. You can't give up yet. We just have to sit down together and think about this. We'll figure out a way that we can all get out of here. Then it happened. Oh dang. Ace. I didn't know you at all, man. We never spoke that much. At least you didn't explode like Birdman. Ace fell forward. He slumped over onto the wooden floor, his body folded in half like a boxer out cold. Ace! June cried out and dropped to her knees beside him. She put her arm around his neck and did her best to lift him up. What happened, Ace? Say something. She shook him frantically. His eyes fluttered open. Oh, he's not dead. Oh. I might have overreacted. Shut up. All right. I'm all right. His voice was weak and slightly slurred. How are you? Fine. This. He held out his left arm and slowly opened his hand. Ah! It was a syringe and a small vial. The vial was empty. It had only recently been emptied. A few drops clung to the sides. There was a label taped to the side of the container. It read Soporil Beta. Gosh darn it. Soporil Beta. Junpei had no idea what it meant or what kind of medicine it might be. It makes you go sleepy buys. Forever. Didn't you use this? Yes. It's just anesthetic. I'll be fine. Anesthetic? I found it earlier while we were searching the hospital rooms. I thought it might be useful later. I didn't think I'd be using it on myself. Why did you do this? Didn't I tell you? I'd like to take a nap. I really am very tired. Junpei knew that wasn't why he'd done it. Ace had injected himself with an anesthetic to forestall Junpei and June's attempts to bring him along. If he couldn't move, there was nothing they could do. He injected himself so that they would be forced to leave him behind. Ace. Is there something you want to say? I'd just like to sleep a little. Could you keep it down? No! Don't, Ace. Don't fall asleep. You feel warm. Are you cupping a... You old perverted man. Oh, so comfortable. I think I'll have a nice dream. You're creepy, Ace. Ace's eyelids drooped further and further, almost as though he were dying. Ace! Ace! She shook his shoulder again and again, but this time he didn't respond. Only the gentle rising and falling of his chest told him he was alive. Junpei was relieved to see he was in fact still breathing. He lifted Ace up off the floor and laid him on the bed he'd been leaning against. When Junpei turned around, Lotus gave him a look of pity. Well, we really don't have a choice now. We can't let his sacrifice go to waste, right? She wasn't feeling any remorse. Junpei was sure of that. Still, he held no grounds upon which to oppose her. It felt wrong, but he had to agree. Then suddenly Santa spoke. Yeah, we're not done choosing yet, are we? Huh? What do you mean? Well, we haven't decided who's going in what door. Yes, that's true. Well, enough this screwing around. Decide. You first, Lotus. Which door do you want? I want door number 8. It's the same number as my bracelet number. Got it. You're 8. Your next 7. Which one do you want? Same logic. I'll take 7. I can't get along with that old lady. What? What did you just say? Her face distorted by rage, Lotus took a step toward 7. He threw up his hands and made a face like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. You're going to get it next time. She shot him a glare that would have melted steel, then turned and stalked off. Alright, who's next? Santa's gaze moved across the 3 people left. Finally, they stopped on Junpei. Junpei, which door do you want? At last. It's my time to shine. Junpei's mind was already made up. Take door number 7. Pat, I think I'm gonna go with door 7. Okay, 7 it is. Yeah. Alright then. That means June's gotta go through 8. What? Why? What? Santa grimaced and muttered angrily to himself, but finally began to explain, "It's the digital route. The 6 of us are gonna keep going without leaving anyone behind. There's only 3 ways we can do it." Like how you don't even explain to me before I chose. Only after. Go through 7 with 3, 5, 8, and go through 8 with 4, 6, 7. Plan B, go through 7 with 4, 5, 7, and go through 8 with 3, 6, 8. Plan C, go through 7 with 3, 6, 7, and go through 8 with 4, 5, 8. And that's it. Those are our only options. In other words, 3 and 4 and 7 and 8 can never go through the same doors. You get it now? As Santa finished, June looked over at Junpei, tears welling up the corners of her eyes. "Oh no, you're saying we aren't going to see each other again for a long time." Junpei felt just as June did. He wanted to be at her side through whatever trials they were preparing to face. But he knew if they were going to survive, he had to swallow his feelings. In order for the 6 of them to move forward, he and June had to be separated. He looked at June. He was scared to lose her, but he swallowed, steeled his resolve, and did his best to smile. "Come on, you're making it sound like we're never going to see each other again. We gotta split up, but only for a while. This is just like when we went into 4 and 5 doors, remember? We got split up then too, but we all met back up. But 7 and 8 are just like that." "You mean they're connected somewhere?" Wait, what's he talking about? June was with us. What? Yeah, probably. Probably. She didn't sound very hopeful. It was 7 that interjected. "I'm sure they're gonna connect somewhere." "Why? What makes you think so?" "If they don't connect, neither team can get through door 9. In other words, the game would end right there." Zero's been on top of all this so far. I don't think he'd blow it now. I'm sure he wants to have his fun as long as possible. He's not going to end this game until we get through the 9 door. June said nothing. The tears were gone, but her eyes were still sad as they looked at Junpei. He met them, and with what reassurance he could manage, laid his hand gently on her shoulder. "Everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna see each other again. I promise." June bit her lip and gave him an almost imperceptible nod. "Yes. Promise?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. Santa's voice shattered the moment, as he often does. "You guys done? You guys are done, right?" He stretched and continued. "Anyway, that's pretty much it. Clover and I will both go into separate groups. I figure I'll take 8 and Clover can take 7. Any problems with that, Clover?" Clover looked away and was silent for a moment. Whatever. It was more of a dismissal than an agreement, but Santa didn't seem to care. "Alright, we're ready to go then. Let's move. Let's roll out." At Santa's command, the group split and headed for their respective doors. Clover, 7, and Junpei walked toward door 7. Santa, Lotus, and June headed for door 8. For a long moment they stood in front of the door. 7 took a deep breath. "You guys ready?" "Yeah." "Yes." "Okay, let's go." The door had opened. A narrow hallway stretched out before them. 7 and Clover leapt through the door. The moment they did, their bracelets beeped. The detonators in the bracelets had been activated. Junpei stepped forward to follow them. But as he was about to step over the threshold, he stopped. He looked to his right, toward door 8. June stood there, a mirror image of Junpei. She turned and looked toward him. Their eyes met. They nodded. Their farewell took almost 1.5 seconds. Then someone took hold of Junpei's arms and hauled him bodily through the door. He heard the sound of the numbered door slam shut behind him. His bracelet gave a cold electronic beep. Only 81 seconds left. No time to waste, guys. Let's get moving. Seven led the way down the hallway. Junpei and Clover followed him as fast as they could. After what seemed like far more than 81 seconds, they reached the end of the hall. To the left of the wooden door, they found the dead. There was no time to rest or catch their breath. All three slammed their hands in quick succession over the scanner panel and the dead. Pant. Still trying to catch his breath, Seven leaned heavily against the wall. It stopped. It stopped. His smile seemed forced and a little crooked. This is the second time we've gone through one of these numbered doors, but you never really get used to it. He stood up straight, no longer out of breath, and wiped some of the sweat from his head and neck. Clover smirked at him. I would have thought a guy your size would have bigger balls than that. Whoa. Just doubt it. Just... Okay, then. What? What did you just say? Say it again, I dare you. You have no... You wanna die? I'd like to see you try. Hey, calm down, guys. This isn't the time for this. It's funny, but it's not gonna do us any good. Gosh. Junpei sighed. Sometimes he wondered if the doors and the puzzles were really the greatest challenge they faced. Wait here for a minute, alright? I'm going to go see if there are any other doors. They didn't respond, but Junpei wasn't in the mood for a conversation anyway. First, he examined the inner part of the numbered door. It was, of course, shut tight. On the left was a single short hallway that terminated almost immediately at a thick iron wall. Junpei double doubted the wall could be moved. At last he gave up, and returned to Seven, who was tapping lightly on the wooden door. This door's the only option we've got, right? Yeah, it looks like it. There was a metal plaque bolted above the door, and read operating room. Beautiful. If it was to be believed, the room on the other side of the door was an operating room. Well, I would hope so. Something about it made Junpei feel nervous. Well, there's no point in standing around. Might as well go in and see what's waiting for us. Seven grabbed the brass knob and slowly opened the door. The creak of the hinge sounded like the groan of an old woman. A chill snaked its way down Junpei's spine. Quickly he gathered what courage he could and took the first step into the room. Seven followed with Clover right behind him. Part of the room just past his door was obscured by a screen. Clover's curiosity got the better of her, and she darted past Junpei to peer around the screen. Yarg.